Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Duplication Nation MLM podcast. And this is another one of the Chopping It Up series, but a little different than the normal format because this time I'm chopping it up with ... you. This is part one. Like all of the guests I'm going to have on, I want to do multiple with many of them. And the same with you. I thought just based on the comments I get and the DMs in my phone. Let me bring my microphone closer here so you guys on the audio versions get a better audio. Let me adjust the light. It's a very bright, sunny day in Miami, and it's a little distracting. I want to have regular conversations with you guys about what I think are the important things of the business, things that you should be aware of, maybe trends that are going on, regulatory actions that are changing the landscape, marketing context that I think makes makes it necessary for you to change your approach. And so today is one of those shows. The first one, but it won't be the last one, I promise. My dear friend, the late, great Mark Yarnell once did back in the day of cassette tapes, he had a cassette called the ABCs of MLM. And that was really helpful to a lot of people. And I found that really kind of an inspiration for the first chapter of my first book, and even the latest version, Direct Selling Success. The first few chapters are kind of based on that, and the theme I would put it under is the business of the business. And this is something I do with all the client companies I'm working with, and the top leaders, same. I'm saying, hey, we've got to build this into your system. We've got to teach people the business of doing the business, because we're going to bring in a lot of people who are employees. They've never been an entrepreneur in their whole life. And now we're going to teach them how to run their own home-based business. They don't have a boss. They don't have to clock in and clock out. There's nobody telling them what to do. For some people, that's really liberating, and they jump right into it. Excuse me. For other people, it's very difficult because they haven't developed the self-discipline that they need to keep active and to be productive and not spend their days doom scrolling through social media, or just spending an hour and a half a day liking posts on Instagram and TikTok and think that they're building their network. But the actual nuts and bolts of how you do the business. So I want to start with that topic this episode. Just know this is a venture I do with Jaime Lokier. We're headquartered at duplicationnation.com, and there's a MLM boot camp you can sign up for. It's a free 9-lesson email course, it's 3 weeks on kind of the survival skills necessary to make it in the business so you don't drop out. Be sure, if you're not a subscriber, to sign up for that. And then we have ongoing newsletters that just keep you posted what's going on. And one other resource called MLM Confidential. You can find it there, or you can go to mlmconfidential.com. That's a paid newsletter, and it's for leaders. Feature every month. We do something about duplication. We do something about leadership skills. We're going to give you a challenge to complete every month. And then we have a session called The Dish, which is really just keeping up on what's going on with people leaving companies or companies going out of business or the MLM crypto scams and Ponzi schemes you need to warn your people about. I will tell you this for this first section we're going into today. This is not for retailers. And really, the whole podcast is not for retailers. It's for people who are building the business and want to learn those business building things. So a key thing, I think, in all of this, everything you learned this episode and every episode when I have my partners on and we're chopping it up back and forth, is that you don't want to try to force this down the throats of your retailers. They're not interested in that. They don't want to go to meetings. They don't want to recruit people. They don't want to learn duplication techniques because that's not what they're about. They love your product line or your service line. They use it themselves. They want to be able to share it with their friends and neighbors and associates and get some override commissions, maybe get their products for free, maybe get a little extra money for the kids' college fund or their next family vacation. So let's not conflate the two. It's really important, in your team, you're going to have the retailers. You're going to have kind of what I like to call the weekend warriors. The people are going to do 10 or 15 hours a week to get a supplemental income. And then you're going to get the professionals, the people who want to make it a career and eventually go full-time in the business. Couple of foundational principles. Everything that I think is where success is built in the business, I think it's grounded on one or two of these. And the first is something you've probably heard us talk about before. It's not what works, it's what duplicates. Honestly, there are so many ways to do the business today, and you can sign up an influencer on TikTok who has 2 million followers, and they can produce huge amounts of volume. You can hire lead generation companies, and they can send you 1,000 leads every month, which you can cold call or cold email or spam, and you could produce some volume. You might recruit a person of mega influence who's a radio or TV personality or a sports star, and they can produce huge amounts of volume. But again, those things work, but they don't duplicate. One of the things that I've got to at this point in my career is every single action that I take in my business now, I ask myself the question, how can this be duplicated by somebody who's on my 25th level who has never met me in person? And I think it's really good advice for you. The other foundational principle I think you should work on all the time is what we call external source tools. External meaning outside of you, outside of your charisma, outside of your amazing personality, outside of your amazing stage presentation skills. So it's a video, it's a booklet, it's a product catalog, it's a PowerPoint deck, it's a flip chart, it's a 3-way call with somebody in your sponsorship line, it's a live stream presentation or an in-person meeting. It's something that conveys information to the candidate, and it doesn't come from you and your dynamic personality. Like you guys in the health and wellness business, I know we've got a lot of doctors and nurses and massage therapists and iridologists and life coaches and people who have a tremendous amount of knowledge about vitamins, minerals, wellness, exercise, workout routines, all of those kind of things. And you study the products, you study the ingredients, you study the research studies, the gold standard studies, the peer-reviewed journals, and you could do a 2-hour presentation on why your products are so amazing. Great. It's never going to duplicate. One of the jokes we like to say, if you're in front of if you're in front of a candidate, if your lips are moving, you better be pointing to a tool because that's what can be duplicated. When you do that amazing 90-minute presentation on the ingredients in your prebiotic, postbiotic product, wow, people are going to be amazed. They're probably going to buy a big supply of it. But none of them are going to feel comfortable going to their friends and family and trying to replicate that presentation. Those are the people that come to your presentation and they say, that looks very interesting. I want to wish you a lot of success with that. I know you're going to do amazing. I just don't think it's for me. When you hear those words, it's usually because you failed because you didn't use a third-party tool. You put out too much information from you personally, and people can't replicate it. The next thing I would like to talk about is the idea of teaching people to be an entrepreneur versus a salesperson. And again, remember, this does not apply to retailers. I'm talking about builders. The thing with this is we've got to run the business like the business. I was really fortunate. My first serious job was running a restaurant for a huge nationwide chain. And I had to do my own profit and loss statement every month. I had to do my own disbursement of expenses every week. I had to call in my payroll every week. So, okay, here's what we paid the produce company that delivered that, and here's what we paid the dairy who delivered the milk products, and here's what we paid the bakery who brought the bread, and we had the cash disbursement. I would take all the money every day and put it in a zip up lock bag and put it in the night deposit at the bank, and I would report and put copies of the deposit slips every day, and then a copy of all the expenses. And so I had my weekly figures, which I called in, and then at the end of the month, I had to take the 4 or 5 weeks weekly figures, put them together, the rent, depreciation, all of those things, and then call in what my profit was to my regional manager and do that every month. And that was so helpful for me. And I've been benefiting my entire career because of that. So when I got involved in this business, I looked on it as an entrepreneur, not as somebody who just was selling products and making a retail profit. I realized I'm running a big business. And ultimately, when you're successful, you are running an multi-million-dollar international business that is the equivalent of some of the highest paid CEOs in the world. And you're running a business equivalent or even bigger, better than they are. So we've got to teach people how to block off their planner. And particularly, again, the beginners, the part-time people. Hey, to do the business successfully, you're going to need 10 to 15 hours a week. So let's get out your planner and let's schedule the next 2 weeks. Let's look at what are the major events coming up, the opportunity presentations, the company convention. We need to mark off your calendar. Ask them to do a 1-year commitment. Don't look left, don't look right. Evaluate the business only after 1 year. Get that commitment. They give you at least 10 or 12 hours a week for 1 year, and then they will evaluate the business. Not after 2 months where they say, well, I'm not a millionaire yet. This business doesn't work. I always give them my commitment to them. I'm here for you. I'll give you 2 promises. Number 1, I will never knowingly lie to you. And number 2, I will never tell you anything that isn't in the best interest of your business, not mine. So, and my other commitment is that I'm going to help you build this in depth. I'm going to help you learn the foundational skill sets, and I'm going to help you drive this business at least 10 levels deep. So that doesn't mean I'm going to place people under them to get 10 levels deep. No, I mean, I'm going to help them sponsor their first generation of people and train that first generation of people how to get their first generation, which will be your new person's second generation, and the second to the third to the fourth, so that they actually have 10 generations of distributorships going down, regardless of what the pay plan is. Binary, breakaway, doesn't matter. We're going to help them get at least 10 generations of depth in their business. And then we're going to teach them the foundational skill sets. And this has to be, all of this can really be incorporated. If you're savvy, you're going to build this into your new distributor orientation. And again, if you're unfamiliar with that, check out my book, Direct Selling Success. I nuts and bolts take you through the whole process. But that makes, I really believe you make or break your new distributors in the first 2 weeks, and the first 48 hours are critical. You want to get them study, do, and teach right away, simultaneously, and you want to get them grounded in these basic skill sets. What are they? Number one, how to tell the product story. What the company, what is it about? What's the origin story? Why is the reason to be? And not because two guys met in a bar and they decided to start a company and now they're really rich. No. What does this story mean to your candidate? What is the mission, the vision of this company that they will want to buy into? How to meet people. That's a skill set. How to work a candidate list. That's a skill set. How to invite. That's a skill set. And how to follow up. So those are the 5, what I would call the foundational skill sets. You can also make an argument that presenting or getting people to presentations is a skill set, but I kind of incorporate that into the inviting one, because I'm always going to want my team to be using third-party tools for the presenting, not doing it themselves. The next thing we've got to really understand, if you want to be successful in the business, and you got to convey to your team if you want them to be successful in the business, is what I would call the methods of operations, the MOs. There should be, in your culture, you want to create a daily method of operation. For me, that's going to include morning self-development time. It's going to include meeting people and working the candidate list. Those are things that should be done every day in the business. You have a weekly method of operation, checking in with your customers. If you're in a weekly pay plan, then of course you want to be closing out the week, checking the rank advancements for you and your people. As somebody really close, do you need to get in touch with them and let them know, hey, you're only 400 PV or SV away from this next rank. Make sure you dial it up this last 48 hours and get that rank. Huge part of the weekly MO is getting candidates in front of presentations, follow-up, and then participation in leadership academies and opportunity presentations yourself. Monthly method of operation, that would be, if you're in a monthly plan, it's closing out the month, checking the rank advancements, and building to the next major event, which would be part of what we could easily call the quarterly method of operation, or by, depending on how many that your team or your company has. But they want to be building that. And then I hope for these MOs, I hope you're including this Duplication Nation podcast as part of that in the daily self-development time. These frequently are 2 or 3 hours long. They could be even longer. This one won't be that length. It'll be a shorter one. But when I start chopping it up with some of these amazing people, we can go for hours. But that's what your daily self-development time is about. So maybe you're spending 20 minutes a day on the treadmill. So you're listening 20. We have a lot of the people, that's what they do. Most listen. They don't watch this YouTube one for you guys who are watching me. Most of it, it's the audio. And they'll just do their 20 minutes a day. That's when they're walking their dog. That's when they're on the treadmill. That's when they're doing their elliptical. Maybe they're out jogging, getting their 4 miles in or their 3 miles or whatever the case may be. So having this culture of these methods of operation is really important to your long-term success. By the way, if you haven't figured this out, this first chopping it up with you is kind of the chopping it up with me or my younger self. This is the lessons I wish I would have known when I started out 44 years ago. I think of all the years that would have been cut off my learning curve and how I could have created so much more success so much sooner. So the next thing that really comes to mind in that context is creating your recruiting culture and the difference between passive recruiting culture and active recruiting culture. I cannot emphasize this enough. It's just one of the big, we talk about truth bombs all the time in this podcast. And this is one of those truth bombs. Most of the people in the profession, even most of the people who begin listening to this podcast or watching it, have a passive recruiting culture. So in other words, if they're working at their day job and they're talking to one of their colleagues in the lunchroom or at the water cooler and somebody says, oh man, I need another cappuccino. I'm so tired every afternoon. I'm ready to lay my head down on the desk and, I'm so sleepy. Hey, do you know I have this side gig business? You may be interested in this. And because the candidate has raised the issue, they tell them about it. Or let's say you're a wellness company, same thing. Somebody starts talking about their chronic fatigue or whatever, and boom, you jump into action and you start to tell them about your product line and all of the amazing results they can get from your product line, and that there's a business opportunity attached. Again, that's passive recruiting because you let the candidate broach that subject. When you create an active recruiting culture, this is built into your event training agendas. This is built into your new distributor orientation. This is built into your psyche that, okay, if I've got 10 or 12 hours a week to grow the business, I have a certain amount of time blocked off every week, cada semana. Every week you have time blocked off for prospecting, for inviting people to get in front of presentations. And of course, in this podcast, you hear from some of the most amazing recruiters in the world, and you get to hear how they approach people. Listen to the episode with Angie Rosas on how she's developing relationships through social media. Listen to the episode with Marco Passanante when he shares the actual conversations he has when he's meeting people in coffee shops, and on and on and on. There's a bunch of amazing episodes in this that you could really drill down on that. But that's what it's about, is having that active recruiting culture. Let's go back to duplication, because this is always, like I said, that's kind of the foundational thing. We're looking at, hey, it's not just does this work, but does this duplicate? And I would like to share my background story that most of you don't know. And some of this story no one in the world knows until now. I'm going to share with you. I got exposed to the business at 20 years old. I was fascinated with it. I had never heard of this crazy concept known as leverage. I traded hours for money. Everyone in my family traded hours for money. There was no entrepreneurship in my family. My kid's sister was the first person in my family who ever went to college, got a degree. I'm so proud of her. She was like one of the, her and I believe like we kind of broke a cycle, a negative cycle for our families that had turned things around and introduced this. And she's not an entrepreneur, but she's really happy, has created a wonderful life, and she got educated, and so she's been able to, even as a working in the corporate world, she's been able to create a really wonderful lifestyle for her and her family. And I, of course, I'm a maniacal entrepreneur who is psychologically unemployable. I have to be an entrepreneur. That's the air that I breathe. And I've been an entrepreneur now since I was 20 years old. So how it came about. So I got to that first presentation at 20 years old on a yellow legal pad, guy with a red pen. He drew a circle and he wrote the word "you" in it. And then he drew those 5 circles underneath and said, and you get 5 people. And when those 5 people each get 5 people of their own, there's 25 on the next level. And then there's 125. And I was hallucinating. I mean, it was just, I had never experienced anything like it. And I knew this was my destiny. This is what I wanted to do, because I was so fed up of trading hours for money and work. At that point, I had opened my own restaurant with a partner, and we were struggling. We were so broke. And so I knew of entrepreneurship, but I certainly didn't know anything about leverage. And when they talked about leverage, I was like, my head exploded. So I joined that company, that very famous company that everybody knows. And my sponsor that brought us in was not really a good sponsor, didn't understand the business, and they dropped out a few months after I joined. And I dropped out maybe 6 months after I joined. So I never really made it anything with that company. But a few years later, I went back to that company. And I was involved in one of those big organizations that really did get system and duplication. And I got to get a little taste of what the inner circle was like. And I was in the home of one of the household name people that I will not say, because they're no longer on this earth, and I want them to rest in peace. But it was a very eye-opening experience being in their home, and they had a workers there doing some repairs on their house. And while we were meeting, the workers finished up and wanted to get paid. And so this person went to these huge bureaus of drawers. I mean, massive, like big, large files you would see in an office, and open it up. And these drawers were filled with $5 bills. Filled, stacked. I mean, stacks and stacks and stacks of cash, all $5 bills, because at that time you paid $5 to go to the events. And so these guys were like the original Pablo Escobars. When you watch Narcos or one of those narco trafficker movies, and you see they have all these bundles of cash, and they have machines that count the cash, and they shrink wrap the cash and put it into wrappers. And he was doing this with $5 bills. And they talked about the lifestyle of when you got to this certain rank with the company. And they said, you're making more than $100,000 a year. And remember now, this is back in the day. $100,000 a year was a lot of money. What I saw working on the inside was Okay, yeah, the people who are in this inner circle are making $100,000 a year, because they're part of the circuit, they're part of the events, they're part of the money that gets paid on all of the tools that they're sending through the team. And they are, in essence, mining the miners. So they talked about this income of more than $100,000, but the actual income of people at that rank was a little less than $60,000, which was not a bad income. That was quite a good income in that day. For most people, would have been very happy with $60,000 a year. But I didn't like the duplicity of presenting it like everybody who got to that rank made more than $100,000, because most of the people, the vast majority of people who got to that rank didn't, because they weren't in the circle. They weren't in on the, I don't want to call it a kickback scheme, because it's not a it's not a kickback. It's just it's a mine the miners thing. They didn't get to participate in mining the miners. And that was such a breakthrough for me, because I felt, hey, I could do this the right way, because they really get systems, they really get events, they really get the importance of tools. Imagine if I create that kind of a system for my team in another company, and I do it above board with complete transparency, and we don't mind the miners. That we do this all as self-funding for the team infrastructure, and everything goes back into the team infrastructure. And then we use it to develop new tools, and we build out the website and the team support infrastructure. And then when it gets and everything is covered and we're making so much money, we can lower the price of the tools, and we can lower the price of the events, and we can make this self-supporting infrastructure machine. And we don't use it to enrich ourselves. We use it solely to create the infrastructure, and we make our money from our bonus checks. And we're going to just reinvest all of this team system money into the team system to make it as elegant, as airtight, as bulletproof as possible. And that will make the bonus checks go up. And I'm tremendously proud of that being really the pioneer in our space to do that. And I've always maintained it. There's a lot of temptation to go the other route, and most people, they fall to that temptation. I just felt like that isn't really the right way to do it. I spent all those years scuffling and struggling, and I don't want that to happen for people in my team. And Jaime and I feel that way about Duplication Nation. We don't want people to scuffle and struggle in the ways we do. We're trying to build out this media outlet. We're having a website, the podcast, the newsletters. We're having an annual event. And we're just going to create these resources for people in the profession. And we're going to take the profession back from the con artists, the Ponzi schemes, the gurus who don't know how to do it, but they're still selling advice, the gurus who used to know how to do it back in the days when you built the business by handing out Dead Doctors Don't Lie cassette tapes, and the dinosaurs who no longer know how to do it, so or they've never done it, so now they are become shills for Ponzi schemes and MLM crypto scams. We're going to take the profession back from those people, and that's what we're doing here with this podcast. So I hope you will share it with everybody on your team and the events we do. And again, if you're a leader, get the MLM Confidential newsletter. And all this stuff is available in English and Spanish, because Jaime and I do it together. So we put it in both languages, and ultimately we expect to have it in all the major languages of the world. The other thing I would like to share with you is thinking like a scientist. When I say a lot of stuff about my story people don't know, I'm on the autism spectrum. Uh, I didn't know it for many, many years. I just thought I was weird. My family and friends just thought I was weird. Um, when you're broke, you're a weirdo. When you're rich, you're eccentric. So I was able to graduate from a weirdo to being eccentric, because if you make $150,000 a month and you're act in strange ways, they just call you eccentric. But when you're broke, they say he or she, they're just a weirdo. Stay away from them. Part of and this has been a blessing in my life, right? It's a blessing and it's a curse, right? It's different depending on where you are in the spectrum. But for me, I'm on that part of the spectrum that is on the red line there, from OCD, obsessive compulsive behavior. I have zero email inbox policy. I clean out my email every night. I clear out the messages on my phone every night. I'm methodical. I'm organized. When I send a message, I expect to get a reply. I run it like a tennis match. I lob the ball into their court, and they need to lob the ball back into my court. I do the same thing with my team. Just like a chess match, I make a move and then they need to make a move, right? And I don't make two moves in a row. I may at the start, somebody brand new, hey, come on, I sent you the link for the new distributor orientation. Please complete that. Call me as soon as you're done. I want to get you in the process. But after that, I'm not going to make two moves in a row. I don't chase people, because I say, come on, we're all big kids here. We're adults. You're investing in the business. You told me you want to do a business. You told me you want to be an entrepreneur. I'm your coach. I will do everything in my power as long as you show me. As long as you keep making moves back, I will always keep making moves to your way. But so what does that mean? I'm a very rational, logical, analytical person. Always have been. And so even in my early days, I would be like, man, I had a home meeting tonight with 4 people and 3 of them signed up and 1 of them became a customer. Great. Next night, man, I had a meeting with 5 people today and nobody signed up. What did I say last night that I forgot to say tonight? Or what did I not say last night that I might have said tonight that alienated these people or scared them away or made them think this is a bad business? And then the next meeting and the next meeting. And you build this body of evidence over time. And this is the blessing / curse part of my mental makeup, is I'm always analyzing those things. And I do think like a scientist, right? So what, it's funny with all the COVID debate and the mask debate and everything. There's been such a misrepresentation of science. People say, you should take the vaccine, the science, follow the science. And people say, you should not take the vaccine, follow the science, as if there is some definitive science about the vaccine versus not, the mask versus not. No, that's not how science works. With science, you propose a hypothesis, which you then try to blow up. You try to disprove it. You try to falsify the hypotheses. And I just wrote this month's issue, when, if you're watching the live, this show when it first comes out, which will be in August, it'll still be August. Yeah, should still be August of 2023 when I'm recording this episode. So the September 1st issue of MLM Confidential will have an article about that, where I'm writing about duplication as a science. And I'm referencing Albert Einstein. Einstein probably one of the greatest scientists in the history of civilization, probably the most popular or well-known or recognized scientist in our culture. He was famous for his Gedankens. Gedanken is German for thought experiment. So he would conduct these thoughts experiments, and then he would try to falsify them, because that's what great scientists do. In fact, the really great scientists, they might do 100 hypotheses, try to falsify them all, and know that they might falsify them all. There's the old story about what's his name, with Edison, with the light bulb. No, I've discovered 999 ways it doesn't work. I don't even know if that story is even true, but it's certainly been passed along for generations. And it's certainly true in directionally, which is that he did all of these experiments trying to find the way that made a light bulb actually work. And as part of that process, you figure out all the ways it doesn't work. Way I approach this business, this book, right, Direct Selling Success, the working title when I wrote it was The Science of Leverage Sales, or maybe The Science of Direct Selling. I wasn't sure which one. And ultimately, it got changed with the publisher, and we went with Direct Selling Success. And the subtitle is From Amway to Zombies, because of course from A to Z, like Amazon, you have the A to Z, and and Amway is such a integral part of our culture, one of the pioneers in our space. We built on, everyone in our business stands on the shoulders of the early Amway pioneers. And then the zombies are the MLM zombies, that just the people who are always looking for a deal, and they're running from one deal to the next deal to the next deal, and they're always looking for the next hot deal. So they're basically dead. They just haven't laid down, and they're just ambling along looking for new people they can eat their brains, right? So that's what that book is about. But it really is the science of direct selling. Because when you do that home meeting and the 4 people sign up and 1 becomes a customer, and you think about it, that's a thought experiment. And when you do the opportunity presentation with 300 people at the Marriott Hotel, and 40 of them are candidates and 32 of them sign up, that's a thought experiment. When you create your standardized presentation and you talk about the compensation plan in a certain way, that's a thought experiment. When you decide, I'm going to lead with the products, I'm going to lead with the business, those are thought experiments. And I think it's really important that we think like scientists, and we create thought experiments, and we find the things that work and we find the things that don't work. A really integral part of this process is we don't use our team for those experiments. Please hear me on this. Your job as a leader is to do the experiments, find out the things that work, and those are the things you share with your team. This is the sacred responsibility that Jaime and I adopt with Duplication Nation, MLM Confidential, our live events. Anything you do from the 2 of us, it's always going to be based on that. Hey, we're not going to use you for guinea pigs. There's a lot of gurus who use you for guinea pigs, right? They hear something might work. They're not actually in the business, or they got out of the business 10 years ago or 20 years ago, and they think they hear some sexy thing like TikTok. Oh, wow. Yes, you got to use TikTok. I'll be doing a 4-hour course on how to use TikTok for your business. At the time I'm recording it, now it's Chat GPT, right? We got everybody selling ebooks on Chat GPT and doing 4-hour seminars on Chat GPT. And they're using you as guinea pig, right? They're, giving you hypotheses that they have not proven, and they want you to prove so they can sell it to more people, but you're the guinea pig. I promise you, I make that commitment. Jaime and I, we don't use you as guinea pigs. When you see something from our media outlet, we've tested it, we've tracked it, we've modified it. We know this is what's working in the space. I have worked with the finest companies in the profession. As a consultant, I've worked in the corporate realm. I work extensively with companies right now, creating marketing materials, producing training events, producing training agendas, developing those standardized presentations, working with the leaders on testing them and tracking them and implementing them. I have the highest level of success people in the coaching programs that I do. We know what's working in the space right now, the legitimate stuff, right? You're going to hear people say, yes, and I've helped work with 500 people who all have made $1 million or more in the profession. No, you haven't. You've got 500 people who have made more than $1 million, and 450 of them are doing it in Ponzi schemes and MLM crypto scams. That's not the real world. That's not legitimate, right? I'm very proud of my body of work, right? You can send Anderson Cooper and the 60-minute camera crew could, bust in right now and say, Gage, you make these claims of having trained all these millionaires. I have the receipts, baby. I can tell you company after company after company, and say, okay, see that company? The top 20 payout we're on, I have worked with 18 of them. You see that company there? The top 10 worldwide payout, I've worked with 10 out of 10. This one, I could go through company after company after company. The legitimate ones. I don't work with the sketchy deals. I don't work with the pyramid schemes. I'm sorry, I know it's a lot of money, and they will, and I get those offers. People throw money at me. Trust me, people throw money at me. We'll send you a private jet for you. We'll give you a cooked leg. We'll put you into the structure. It'll be under the table deal. I'm not going to touch that. I sleep very well at night because I know who I am. I know what I'm comfortable doing. And I'm honored by the privilege of the platform, the privilege of this trust that companies and distributors place in me and Jaime. And I take that trust very seriously. So I'm always running those thought experiments. I'm always testing and tracking. And but again, you don't do it with the team. You find out the stuff that works. And if you are following the work here at Duplication, if you become a subscriber to MLM Confidential, then you're going to hear from the brightest people in the business on what's really working right now. So you can take that with confidence to your team, and you can put that down, because that's where duplication really lives. And that's the stuff you want to focus on. So those are the things I wish I would have known when I started out. I want you to know. And I guess the final thoughts I would be is, I'm just going to encourage you. We need to demand better of the gurus, the seminar leaders, the authors who are in our space. There's an entire subculture of parasites that make their money off our business. I'm a member of the National Speakers Association, right? I'm in the Speaker Hall of Fame. And so when I'm at a convention there and I'm networking with my colleagues, they'll say, oh my God, you work in the network marketing business. I would give anything to be in the business. Those people, they go to seminars, they buy books, they buy coaching programs, they invest in themselves. And I say, it's true, they do. I'm blessed that I work in this market, and that these people do believe in investing in themselves. That's the great side. The downside is all those other people see our profession and think that's where my gravy train is. That's where I can make the most money. And so they're bringing sometimes no expertise at all. They're bringing hype and rah-rah, and they're trying to poach your team and sell to your team. And if your team members take and go invest thousands of dollars in some coaching program with somebody who doesn't understand our business, that's money they're not investing in their own business. That money they could be using to build internationally, to be buying airplane tickets and hotel rooms and flying to other countries and working down a depth and finding the emerging leaders in their organization. They could be invested in marketing materials that can be out there floating around in the universe with their contact information on it, reaching that message out to the candidates. So just be mindful of that. And I guess final thing, I would just tell you this. One of the other things I hear as somebody who's become very wealthy is, why are you doing this network marketing stuff? You know, you're a New York Times best-selling author, 14 books translated into 28 29 different languages. You've got the credibility. You're in the Speaker Hall of Fame. You work with all kind of entrepreneurs. You have this high-level coaching program. People pay $15,000, $25,000 to go to your boot camps. Why are you messing with this MLM stuff? It's bad for your reputation. It's great you made all that money with it, but now, you know, you could be respectable. And they use that word. I actually have people who tell me I could be respectable if I would leave behind this MLM stuff. And I just want you to know that will never happen. I am so proud of this profession. Now, I like to call it leverage sales because I know with MLM, there's so many of the Ponzi people, and particularly now the crypto scams, and they're trying to steal those names and pretend they're network marketing companies. But that's why I'm doing this project with Jaime. That's why I write my books and do the work I do. I am so incredibly proud of this profession. So even my books for general entrepreneurs, if you read Risky is the New Safe, How to Get Smart, Healthy, and Rich, Mad Genius, I'm always talking about leverage. When I'm on TV interviews and radio interviews and podcasts, I'm always talking about leverage. I'm always talking about our profession, because I don't know any other profession that I could have become wealthy like this. I had a single mom who raised 3 kids by herself, knocking on doors, selling Avon, direct selling. Back in the day when it really was knocking on doors, selling door to door. That's what my mom did to raise us. I'm so proud of the example she set, the work ethic that she provided for us. And I'm so proud of what I've been able to accomplish by being in this business. For you guys who don't know my story, I was I was expelled from high school. I was a teenage alcoholic, teenage drug addict. I was in jail for armed robbery and burglary at 15 years old. There were no big companies trying to recruit me. There were no colleges offering me scholarships. I was out on this. I moved out of the house. I lived by myself at 16 years old, and I made my way in the world. And I got in the restaurant business, right? I worked my way up from a minimum wage dishwasher in a pancake house. And I'm so blessed that I got presented that first presentation on that yellow legal pad with the red pen you in the circle. And I saw the magic of leverage, and my life has been transformed forever. And I've been able to transform the life of millions of other people. So yes, I'm in the business. I'm still a distributor. I'm still going to talk about it loud and proud at every opportunity I have. And I have many investments now. I own stocks. I invest in real estate. I own precious metals. I invest in businesses. I have a lot of great sources of income. But the one that's nearest and dearest to my heart is the one that made all the other ones work, because it allowed me, this guy without the college degree, without the connections, without the money, to employ the concept of leverage and create true streams of income. That's what we get to do. We get to share that with everybody we know. And if they have a dream and they're willing to work, we can help them do that. And that is a sacred blessing. It's a sacred honor. It's a sacred privilege. And I hope you take it as seriously as I do. All right. Thanks for watching or listening. Be sure and subscribe, share the podcast with your friends. Go out and be amazing. Peace. Hey guys, I'm back, and I just want to thank you for listening or watching, and let you know, if you made it this far, you are a serious, credible leader. You're somebody committed to success, professionalism, and honing your craft, sharpening your saw. So I want to recommend a resource to you. It's a monthly newsletter called MLM Confidential. Leadership lesson every month, duplication lesson every month, something we call the dish, which is kind of the industry news, what's going on in the space, who's moving where, what company is shutting down, what company's opening up, what is the dish, the dirt of what's really going on behind the scenes that maybe the average person doesn't know. And there's a personal challenge every month. So check it out, mlmconfidential.com. I'll see you next week.